Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. We haven't talked a whole lot of hockey around here this season. We've been all caught up in our purple football team, and all of these off-season moves by Dan Duquette and the Orioles have kept us on the edge of our seats. But Ed Frankovic, who is recuperating nicely from his own IR and DL and 15-day DL stint within a middle body injury is what we'll call it in hockey parlance. We welcome the great Ed Frankovic back on the backside of a really great Caps win on Tuesday night. Ed, they play pretty good hockey on Tuesday night. I haven't had a chance to watch all the games this year, seeing piece by piece, but Tuesday night, I'm glad I did tune in when things are going well right now, especially for your boy Madison Bowie, who I know you're in love with.
Yeah, Madison had a big game again. He's really developing well in the back end. We talk a lot about Coach Todd Reardon, how well he's done with Orlov and what he did with Nate Schmidt. And just the improvements John Carlson and Carl Osner saw when he came over, when this coaching staff that Coach Trotz assembled got put in place. And you're seeing Madison Bowie and Christian Hughes develop into NHL defensemen, guys who played in the minors last year. And with the salary cap constraints and the expansion draft taking Schmidt, the Caps need these guys to step up. And Madison Bowie, he has a physical, prototypical NHL body, and he has the ability. And he's really playing some great hockey. The feed he made to Brett Connolly to make it 3-1 last night really was a dagger for the Avalanche, who were playing some pretty good hockey themselves. They're a young team, and they beat the Penguins the night before. The Caps laid an egg on Long Island, and the Capitals. It took a little while to get going on Tuesday night, but the third period was really impressive, and really what you needed to see. They outscored Colorado 3-1, and really salted away a nice victory and put themselves back in first place with the Blue Jackets.
You know what's interesting? I came into the game late. I was watching the Alabama election. I've been watching the MLB winter meetings and running around doing my thing on a Tuesday night as well with UMBC and Coppin. I was over there for most of that game. So I got back, early third period, and I put the game on, and I had things to do. I have a kitten now, so I'm kind of cleaning up, feeding the cat, watching the game. It was 3-1, and I'm listening to the broadcast, and when you listen to a broadcast of a Caps game specifically, first off, Beninati and Lachlan do the best job of anyone recently, going back to John Miller and going back to, let's say, Brother Lowe and that era of broadcasting with Mel Proctor. They're the best broadcasters in the market that I listen to on a consistent basis. And I love Johnny Holiday, but I don't listen a lot. I go to Terps games or I watch them on TV. I'm not listening to the radio broadcast. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I listened to Joe Angel and Fred Manfred. And when I do on a summer night driving around this summer with my mom being ill, I'd listen in. And, and the broadcasts are so fake, right? Like, when you put it on, if you're losing 10-2, Jim Hunter will tell you, well, Ubaldo only made a few mistakes early on, and he had his good stuff tonight. And, his cutter was working, his breaking ball was, it's just nonsense. But when you put Beninati and Lachlan on, if the Caps are losing 4-1 in the third period, they will say, I can just hear Lachlan saying, Coach Trotz is not going to like this one bit. I guarantee you he's not going to like the effort he's seeing here tonight. Like, you will hear them get down on the team when the team is not hustling. And quite frankly, in the modern era, the last 5, 6, 7 years, they haven't played a lot of bad hockey around here. As Joe Flacco would always say to me, Ed, we do a lot of winning around here, and the Caps do a lot of winning, and there aren't nights, but when they're playing really well, then you really hear Beninati and Lachlan praise how much they did in the first and second period, and how a good look it was, and what a good effort it was, especially on the backside of them not looking good last month in Colorado, really putting out an embarrassing effort that evening.
Yeah, they got run out of the gym there in Denver, and that was a turning point. Afterwards, Coach Trotz really lit into the team, and they've been a much better hockey team since that night. And to your point on the broadcast, it's no wonder that when the Capitals get moved to NBC and it's away from the local broadcast, that so many people on Twitter are not happy because they're used to Lachlan and Beninati. These guys know the team.
And I'm not a homer about, you know what I mean? They're not really homers in that way. And I appreciate that so much, especially when you invite them into your home every night. I don't like inviting Jim Hunter and Rick Dempsey into my home every night. You know why? They're not honest. They're not honest. You know what I mean? Like, as broadcasters, they can't be honest because Peter's got his thumb on them. In the same way, I watched the press secretary down in D.C. She can't be honest. She works for a dishonest man. I mean, it's insulting to me, and I don't like spending 80 nights with it, but I love spending an evening with Beninati and Lachlan. I really do. It's part of my Caps experience that I dig so much because I can come in the third period and really hear how they played the first two periods and not think that I'm getting fed a bunch of bunk.
Well, and you add an Alan May in between periods, and you really get quality analysis.
And Rob. Rob does a great job, too. All of them. They all do a great job.
Yeah, so it's a great broadcast. They really they had a very good third period. The first two periods on Tuesday night were iffy. There was points in the game, again, where it could have gone either way. And once again, the man in net, Braden Holtby, was the reason that they were able to hold the fort down, as I blogged at WNST.net, and keep this a 1-1 game till they got their acting gear. I mean, it's 1-1. Brooks Orpik has the puck on the left wing boards midway through, or maybe later in the second period, and Brooks has a Avalanche guy barreling right down on him, and he's got to do something with the puck. And all four Capitals, for some reason, are on the other side of the ice. And the Capitals had their top line on the ice, and that line of Backstrom, Ovechkin, and Wilson has been very good recently, but I thought they were average at best on Tuesday night. And Orpik tries a cross-ice pass. Wrong decision. Probably should have ate the puck. But once again, the Senators, Backstrom's nowhere to be found up the middle. The left wing, Ovechkin's on the right side for some reason. Wilson's where he's supposed to be. But so it's a turnover. Colin Wilson, who scored the first goal for Colorado, goes in on a breakaway. He scores there. It's 2-1 Colorado, and suddenly they have all the momentum. But Holtby makes a huge, huge right arm, upper body save, stops him. And, once again, it's the big stop you need from a top goaltender at the right time to prevent you from going down. And then the Capitals, a few minutes later, Carlson comes off the bench on a change, takes the lead, and the Capitals really finally find their game in the third period and take over. But, again, Holtby is doing a lot of things to keep, he's the team MVP, as I blog at WNST.net. He's keeping the team in a lot of games. He's making the big saves, and they're tied for first right now, primarily because of him. Other guys are starting to bring their games along, but Holtby's been consistent from day one this season.
Ed Frankovic joining us here. He is all things Caps, our historian, and keeping us in line. Expectations for this team, I think, change when they play well like that, right? Like, they don't have as much talent as they've had the last few years. We've been through that. They have premier goaltending. They have premier players. They have some young players they're trying to bring into the mix here. Certainly have a very capable coach in Coach Trotz, who's moved some lines around and trying to create some confidence for some other players on the team, and has made a lot of adjustments, quite frankly. And that's really as much as we don't talk about it in October, November, December, it's much like when I talk to Juan Dixon about playing, these games in these money games. You're really waiting for the MEAC. In the NHL, you're really waiting for the playoffs or waiting for that February, March run and trying to adjust. As much as you can get down on the team when they don't look good in Colorado a month ago, when they have a crappy West Coast trip or whatever, you can't lose sight of the fact of you're really trying to build something that makes it better later in the year and tinker a little bit, maybe even with some things that you're skeptical about or you don't know if they're going to work. You want to try things. Trotz came under a lot of scrutiny for doing that 5-6 weeks ago, man.
He was definitely under a lot of heat. The team wasn't performing, and a lot of that was some of the hangover the players were having from the loss last season. But it's a new season, and this division is tough. You look at the standings. It's 8 points from top to bottom. Carolina and the Flyers are tied for last, but they got 31 points, only 8 behind the Caps and the Blue Jackets, and they played a couple less games than the Capitals. This is going to be a dogfight. I mean, right now the Penguins are sitting outside the playoffs. They're in the 6th spot in the division.
Say that again for everybody to hear. Let me get out of the way. Say that again.
Yeah, right now the Penguins would not make the playoffs. They're in 6th place in the division. So
I like saying that twice. There's like a little encore presentation. So the more. Dude, do you know what I went through in Pittsburgh on Sunday night and getting out of there at 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday? I mean, I was
can't
pissed
imagine how
when I
rough
went
that
down to the
was.
locker room Sunday night. I told a couple of the Ravens brass this on Tuesday. I said it's been a long time. I mean, I give you the 5-year window. One of the reasons we get so pissed with the Caps is we haven't had a parade. We haven't drank out of the goblet yet, right? Like if they had won the Stanley Cup last year or the year before that, or even 5 years ago, I wouldn't feel the pressure, nor would Ted Leonsis, near would anybody, or near would Ovechkin, after you win. And I know it's tough on Harbaugh and Flacco and Suggs and all these guys. Even though they've won, they're expected to do it again. But that loss in Pittsburgh the other night really pissed me off. You know what I mean? Like, as a fan, as a media guy, as a guy in the locker room, I was just pissed that the Pittsburgh people could feel that kind of joy on a Sunday night of coming back from an 11-point deficit and beating us by a point, 39-38, when our offense had it all going on away. It's devastating to me. I hope the team can bounce back and play well in Cleveland this week. But for the Capitals, they haven't won. So I think the scrutiny is out there, and the whole notion that the sky is falling is easy when they lose a couple of games in a row in November, right?
Yeah, and the fan base definitely, is fragile with that. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the Ravens, they have won 2 Super Bowls, and and
the Ravens fan base is fragile too, based on what I saw Sunday night.
Yeah,
I was fragile Sunday night.
Well, you would think they put all that money into the defense in the offseason. That's the defense got to close that game out.
I tweeted. I know you were following. At fourth quarter, I tweeted. If they're as good as they think they are, they have an 11-point lead entering the fourth quarter. They better win. Right. And they didn't win. And
they were up 9. I saw your tweet, 9 points with 6:44 to go. It's going to be tough, 2 scores.
And it wasn't because Flacco threw some stupid pick six or got sack stripped or, he almost fumbled the ball in the second to last play of the game, or was the last play of the game. But,
yeah.
It wasn't because, Collins fumbled or the ball popped up in the air and somebody got a lucky pick. They got beaten flat out, and that's disappointing to me. And but back to the Capitals. Well, say that again. Where are the Pittsburgh Penguins? I think that's how all this started. This meeting.
They're in 6th place, currently not in the playoffs right now. And
that's where this all began with my Ravens rant. I'm sorry, I just had to slide that in.
Well, we've been dealing with Pittsburgh since I was 6 years old. Roberto Clemente, right, coming back from 3-1.
I don't remember that one, and I feel really good that I was born in '68 and let's say '65 or '66 because I would remember '79. I had a guy in the press box in Pittsburgh. Don't get me started on Pittsburgh. You've done this to me now. I don't even know where this came from, but I don't need to talk about the Colorado Avalanche anyway. But I was in a press box Sunday night, and two Yinzers. It's all Yinzers up there. There's Yinzers, there's me, there's Frankovic and Zrebek, and the guys that Gosman and the guys that lug the Ravens equipment. We're all up there eating Mr. Rooney's cookies, and the Wentz injury happened. And I'm up there, and a couple of Yinzers were talking about the '79 Pirates, and I went over and I got into their conversation, like literally just butted in and said, "F the Pirates." And they looked up at me, and they saw my Baltimore stuff, and they knew who I was. They started laughing, and then we got into it. I said, I was 10, and I'm still scarred by it. We don't talk about that where I'm from. So...
Well, I was 14 when it happened, Nash. And when I got married, my wife, Karen, there was one song the DJ was not allowed to play at
I know what song that was.
You know what song that was.
And it wasn't Celebration.
Under no circumstances was We Are Family going to be able to be played at my wedding. There was no doubt. You could play any other song you wanted, Electric Slide, whatever. We Are Family was banned because I am still not over Pops and Willie Stargell.
Play the Hokey Pokey or the Chicken Dance or something, right?
So, we have a long, and then, add to all the Caps problems with the Penguins and the Ravens and the Steelers. I can do without the Yinzers.
I got an hour of sleep, and, anybody that said, somebody intimated that I should have taken the 11 a.m. flight, and I said, you really expect me to spend 5 extra hours in Pittsburgh? I don't need to do that. I spent 3 days up there running around. By the way, their rink up there is beautiful. I don't know if you and I talked a lot about that because we were so into the hockey, but the hockey rink and the hockey experience up there and what they built is incredible. But they are right now 6th place and not in the playoffs. But back to the Capitals and just getting on where they are and where we are with Kuznetsov, with Ovechkin, with Backstrom. In the end, these are the guys that in the spring it's going to matter how they're playing at that time. And that's at the point. If those guys hadn't disappeared every spring, we'd be talking about a Stanley Cup here because they're the guys who have to do it along with Holtby. Yeah,
and they just the pressure has really gotten to them, and they they don't play the right. They had been playing the right way, and to start the season, you and I in our radio bits, I was pretty down on Kuznetsov for the first 5-6 weeks, but since that Colorado game, this guy's been a completely different player. Actually, since the Calgary game, he has taken his game to another level, and I blogged about this out at WNST.net. There's a lot of analysis on last night's game, so I hope people go out and read it. But his shot versus pass decisions have all been spot on. I mean, he was overpassing the puck. He was not shooting, but his decisions in the last 10, 12 games have been stellar. And with Ovechkin, Backstrom, and Wilson going so well, you need another line to go as well. Otherwise, you're going to have the other team just put their checking line against your top line. Well, Kuznetsov and Jacob Vrana, since he got scratched in that Colorado game, totally different player. He's using his speed on the ice. He's going to the net. He's been unbelievable. I mean, I did not see this guy playing this well this quickly. Believe me, I like it. And even with Oshie out for 4 games, and it looks like TJ won't play in Boston on Thursday night, but he'll probably be back Saturday against the Ducks. That second line's still contributing because that's up 3 assists on Tuesday night, and that third one, I know you turned the game on then. The pass he made to Niskanen, I mean, he totally froze the defenseman. It was unbelievable. I mean, it just the skill level this guy has.
Well, there's a Gretzky-esque ability to put the puck where he wants to put the puck, but the vision part of it is so important. And I think it's important for him as to who he's playing with, right? I mean, we've seen him now, 5-6 years into this with a variety of different players. He seems to thrive and go in and out of playing well with guys. For him, it's so much a vision and so much of seeing what's going to happen next and anticipating that because he is so talented.
Yeah, and he had 2 years of pretty much stability nest with playing with Marcus Johansson and Justin Williams, and Justin Williams is such a smart player that he figured out where to go so that Kuzi could get in the puck.
And you're lost when that changes, right? Like literally as a player.
Yeah, and he was, and they put him back with Ovechkin to start the year because he has had some success with Ovechkin. But as Coach Trotz will tell you, Ovechkin's a hard guy to play with, and and Ovi likes to have the puck, and Kuzi likes to have the puck, so they really didn't mesh well. And getting Ovechkin back with Backstrom, where Backstrom will have the puck, but he knows when to give it to Ovi so that Ovi can do his thing. But Kuznetsov is with Vrana emerging here. That's really taking Kuznetsov to another level because Vrana is doing the things that Kuznetsov needs. Kuznetsov needs a guy with speed that's going to straight line, that's going to go to the net, that's going to open up lanes, that's going to have his stick down, that has a good shot, that can finish his passes. And the first goal against the Avalanche on Tuesday night, I mean, Kuznetsov comes across the blue line, and it was almost like like in basketball where you kind of stutter step, right, and you draw the D and then you feed to your left. It was like that in hockey, and it's hard to do that in hockey, but he drew both defensemen, slid the puck to Vrana, and he goes top shelf on Varlamov. It was just a beautiful goal right after the Capitals. It's just, Holtby had made a big save again. But just to get Vrana and Kuznetsov going together on that second line, and I really think it's going to really take off when Oshie gets healthy again because it was playing well before that. Capitals are going to have 2 really top lines. The other thing that you got to really like is the way the fourth line's going right now. And if you look at the ice time, and I blogged about this at WNST.net, Beagle, Devontae Smith-Pelly. Devontae Smith-Pelly was one of the best players on the ice on Tuesday night. He just came with his legs going, the smart decisions, hitting the defenseman, and then Chandler Stevenson. That line played almost 14, 15 minutes they played.
And these are all new names to people that haven't been watching the Caps recently, right? I mean, there's a lot of new, especially on the backside of this thing, to go with the Ovechkins and the Oshies and these guys. And you need to learn these players and learn. And that was always one of the fun parts about being a beat writer for me, was sliding between the Skipjacks and the Capitals and seeing how guys would fit in when they moved up to the next level, because it's a massive jump. I mean, much more so than you believe, especially if you're out there against top-notch lines. If you're out there third line rolling, fourth line, fine. But if you get out there and you start seeing what an AHL player looks like versus a top line in this league, boy, it's a mismatch, man.
Yeah, it is. And the massive jump, that's a great point. I mean, you look at, the training camp Chandler Stevenson had. He had a terrible camp, and the Capitals were really hoping, Ness, that he would be able to make the jump. And he didn't. He got sent back down through waivers, and it was a wake-up call. And then, Burkowski gets hurt. A couple guys get hurt. Connolly gets hurt. And they got to call him up. Chandler Stevenson has made it really hard for Barry Trotz to take him out of the lineup. The guy's playing too well. I mean, when Oshie comes back here on Saturday night, somebody's going out of the lineup, and that's going to be a really tough choice for Coach Trotz. Coach Trotz always likes to say, well, the lineup's going to sort itself out. This is going to be a hard choice. I mean, Oshie's going to go back into that second line.
This is a good problem to have, by the way, sending good players back down, right? I mean, they haven't had that at the bottom of the roster much because they haven't had a whole lot of back and forth. I mean, my boy Nasty Ness comes up and down once in a while, but, for the most part, they've had as solidified a unit other than a couple of injuries, which, of course, they had with Orpik and Niskanen over the years, and where they had to come up to the bottom of the roster and do that. But they haven't been one of those teams that's fielded 52 different players during the course of a year, right?
No, not since Trotz has taken over, right? Not since McClellan and Trotz started running the team and really put some stability back there on the back end. I mean, that last season under Adam Oates was just an absolute,
they went through 15 defensemen, right? Literally, right?
Yeah, but they used like 15 defensemen. It was, McVie and Oates. They had no clue what they wanted, and thank goodness those days are gone.
And none of the guys were any good. I mean, that's the other part of that. They weren't designed to be a defensive team at that point, and all that's changed, and that really bodes well for them with the goalie. And on nights when their offense isn't as good, and the depth of the lines when they were bringing in the Justin Williams, and when Burakovsky and Kuznetsov were still talented question marks, right? I mean, 2-3 years ago at the front end of this thing, every night you never knew what you were going to get out of those guys. At least with Kuznetsov, after your chiding earlier in the year and that beatdown in Denver, he's looked like a star player in this league again.
Yeah, he's definitely playing at a stud level, and I expect him to keep it up. The light seems to have gone on. I'm not sure if Coach Trotz had a talk with him or what, but he's playing at the level they need. Burakovsky's only 3 games back from injury. He's skating, but he's got to start getting his shot going. He did make a nice play on that the goal, where Kuznetsov makes the pass and Niskanen. Burakovsky did make a nice hit on Eric Johnson to get the puck. So he finally got a point. They need Burakovsky to get going, and I'm hoping with Burakovsky, with Eller, and Connolly. Connolly's got 4 goals in 6 games now. That line that really took off in January last year when the Capitals went on that run, that third line of Eller, Burakovsky, and Connolly really, you talk about the matchups. The Capitals have those top 2 lines. If that third line is scoring 2, the other team has no answer. And that's when the Capitals went on that run, when that third line really took off. So let's see if that trio can get going, because the Capitals are going to need it. You can't rely on Tom Wilson and having big nights every night with Ovechkin and Backstrom. Kuznetsov and Barano are going to do their share. But right now, boy, this is probably the best of top 4 lines have looked from a stability standpoint in a while this season. It's finally coming together. They'll get Oshie back, and they're really poised to make a nice little run here going forward. And it's going to be a battle. This Metro is going to be a dogfight. They're not going to pull away like they did last year, like Devin the Penguins have done, because there's just too much balance in the league. And that's what makes it exciting about this year as well, is even though the Capitals have lost a lot of talent, anybody can win it this year, Ness. I mean, it's parity. I mean,
the Penguins aren't in the playoffs as of now, so if you don't have to see them, that's half the battle if you're a Caps fan at this point.
Right, and they got their own issues to deal with. Matt Murray's had a lot of injury problems.
I talked to everybody in Pittsburgh last week. I mean, they just lost a lot of hockey, much like the Capitals. When you're good, you lose a lot of hockey players. You just do. And, whether it was to Las Vegas and the expansion thing with the goalie or just guys that you can't afford to pay anymore, period, right?
Yeah, they lost Nick Bonino and Matt Cullen, the third and their fourth line centers. Those are 2 guys that have killed the Caps. Chris Kunitz is now in Tampa, another guy who's killed the Caps. Fleury, so when Matt Murray gets hurt, and I've watched several Penguin games recently, their goaltending hasn't been there. I mean, when Murray went down, they don't have a good backup. That's why a Philip Grubauer is so important to keep on the roster this year, because you're going to need your backup goaltender to help you make the playoffs. You can't play your top goaltender 65 to 70 games and then expect them to be at the top of his game in the playoffs. So the Penguins are going through those growing pains themselves. I mean, they have some star players. I mean, I fully expect them to be there in the end, but they're going through some issues right now. And if Murray goes down, I mean, he's back. He's going to play, I think, this next game. But if he goes down again for an extended period of time, they're in trouble. They don't have really any other goaltenders right now. They're looking for a deal to get a goalie. And the Caps certainly aren't going to give him Grubauer, I can tell you that.
All right, Ed. Well, rest up, get better. I know you're following the Machado sweepstakes as well as following the Ravens on Sunday night. I see you out there tweeting at Ed Frankovic, and we need to win 3 in a row here, and I'm off to Cleveland. And the Capitals, meanwhile, are off to Boston, another place where they were losers this week down in Miami, which was fun. So Boston on Thursday, Anaheim at home on Saturday night. Then they really go on the road, right? I mean, they've been home. It's been some nice cooking here the last week and a half. They've won a lot of hockey games. They went up to I was going to say the island, but they went up to Brooklyn. Up to Brooklyn, forget about it. And we didn't talk about how bad they played on Monday night, by the way, at all. Anything you want to say about that, Ed?
They just didn't show up, Nats. I mean, that's the bottom line. They took the first 25 minutes off, and they were down 3-0, and the game was over. And
well, the road has been different than home for them. They've done really well at home. They're about to go on a road swing here, and the road has been different for them.
Yeah, they've been Jekyll and Hyde on the road, and they're actually catching a break on Thursday night because the Bruins are playing the Red Wings late on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock on rivalry night. Then they've got to fly to Boston while the Capitals are already sitting there, and it's a 7 o'clock game. We know the Capitals have had a lot of success against the Bruins over the last several years, so we'll see if that continues. Boston, the Caps beat them up there already once, but Boston didn't have David Krejci or David Backes. Both of those guys are back, but the schedule sets up nice for the Capitals. They need to go in and kind of jump on the Bruins early. It's amazing what a different team the Caps are, or really any team is, when they score first, because then you really are able to drive the play. The other team is scrambling, trying to keep up with you. So that first goal has been so important for the Capitals this year.
Boston Thursday, Anaheim at home on Saturday, and that's last chance for a little while. The Caps go on the road. They'll be in Dallas on the 19th, Arizona, then Vegas, then at Madison Square Garden. So they're going from Vegas to New York during the holidays. Good luck with that. I saw that once on Home Alone. Hey, great to have you on, Ed. Take care of yourself, all right?
Hey, anytime, Ness. Be well, my friend.
You got it. Ed Frankovic is the way to follow him out on Twitter during any and all Caps games. He is our historian, blogger, insider, and pal. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com. Just $10 a month to join there. Never any commitment. And you can get a lot of inspiration for 2018 at planetoftriumphs.com. Some great storytelling going on out there as well. Last but never least, any breaking news, and I know Dan Duquette's going to deal off Manny Machado with relative ease. You'll get that first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard, and Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home as the Caps drive off to Boston to take on the Bruins. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I am a very available individual out on the internet. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live right here on our Facebook Live as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.